What I'm reading to you is from the Phoenix Journal Review, which is a newspaper publishing. The title, Bush Used Bonus 3392-181. As the world begins to take notice of Bonus 3392-181, we find it timely to point out that this value has been in use in the financial system for a long time. So the following writing is from 7 years ago. Skolnick's writing on Greenspan, Bush, and swindles. Hatton, I want to state right up top here that I have no input on these topics, for I am not going to jeopardize anyone over these revelations of partly truth, partly deductions, and partly nonsense. When, however, these things from writers and networkers are brought to my attention, often by several parties, I need to either offer the information as is or with my comments, for the request is for my comments. Sherman H. Skolnick has brought forth a lot of information, and when appropriate, he usually can back it up with evidence, at least from his own resources. He has, however, offered information in the past by one who inputs, as such as Rue Mills, etc., which is from, in fact, Rayellen Rushbacher, whose information cannot be given full credit because she has published outrageous material about contact and persons otherwise passing through her space, where she actually took through lies funds for the service provided by Gunther Rushbacher. I have no wish to consider this at present, but she has published such things as our association within the CIA, etc., which is absolutely false. And this was carried forth to the extent that other persons who published good information were totally discredited. It would appear that Rayellen likes to present both from her own fabrications and likes to push on that which she is told, and that is often total fabrication. Yes, we can share this with full credit to Sherman H. Skolnick because, indeed, almost all of it is, as you would say, right on. I would certainly do nothing to make the way more difficult for Skolnick, but even there you have to realize that he is alive and still functioning in a world where most who claim to be truth bringers would be dead and gone. Now, Mr. Skolnick fought the good fight and passed away in September of 2006, as nearly as we can determine. And I have to ask the editors to please include right up front here the information for websites, etc., because our copy is chopped off at the text. The reason that it is best to publish this from our standpoint is that we are so involved in some facets of ongoing circumstances as to make this information very probable. We, however, want neither input nor connections with the author of these sensational revelations, nor are we going to do more than offer as is. And I also wish to make something very clearly understood. The activities may well have been swindled and coalitions to conspire to make fraud and swindle, but the basic and fundamental documents, which may or may not have been utilized, are valid, real, legal, and authentic, right through the Treasury Department of the USA, the Federal Reserve System, the International Monetary Fund, et al. And Mr. Bush did have a unique way of handling this asset, which proved both lucrative and at the least interesting. However, the fundamental assets are secured and will again be made available for proper use thereof. What do you do with the people who play dirty and unlawfully is strictly up to you, for I have no interest in playing tag. We have a job to do, and those things are major distractions. So keep up the good work, Sherman, for the best is yet to come. And that was a quoting from SkolnicksReport.com. Greenspan reportedly bribes and aids Bush in gold swindles, Part 1, by Sherman H. Skolnick, February 10, 2000. More than 300 reportedly authentic secret Federal Reserve wire transfer records show how the chairman of America's private central bank has apparently bribed and aided in corrupt deeds. George Herbert Walker Bush and his family, all over a period of time. And later, Greenspan reportedly, jointly with Bush and a swarm of major financial entities, derived a horrific benefit in a major gold swindle. In clandestine meetings over a period of months, the reportedly genuine documents were turned over to our research and investigation group by government officials, clearly in an inside position to possess and confirm such data. A conversation at one such meeting: "Tell Sherman if you or he ever reveals our identity, we are all dead, every one of us." Also in jeopardy of life and limb would be more than 8 others in key government and financial positions. Some of the records purported to have the wire transfer signature of A. Greenspan, whose term as Commissar of the Federal Reserve was renewed in the new century, because he is like a corrupt Soviet dictator, answerable to no one. We coined the term Alan Redspan. The document delivery team was assured of confidentiality by our past record, and as the founder chairman of our group, Citizens Committee to Clean Up the Courts, since 1963, I have been in prison some 8 times in 4 decades. Not for committing crimes, but for so-called contempt of court, for refusing to reveal the identity of long, reliable resources of highly level corruption data turned over to us on the sly. And our sources, cross-checked with others and backed up by over 1 million documents already in our possession, have enabled us, over a period of decades, to set off what some describe as the biggest judicial bribery scandal in U.S. history. Briefly stated, this includes the downfall we caused in 1969 of Illinois' highest tribunal, the Illinois Supreme Court, with half the high court being put to the wall. In the 1970s, our work led to the jailing for bribery of the highest level sitting federal judge in U.S. history, a federal appeals judge in Chicago, who had also been former state governor, and his aide former head of the Illinois Department of Revenue, the tax collectors. 7th Circuit Federal Appeals Judge Otto Kerner, Jr. went on all the media and said, "Skolnick is a liar." And Kerner died an ex-convict, convicted as I accused him to his face, as is our longtime policy. And from 1983 to 1993, our work set off a series of scandals by which 20 local judges and 40 lawyers were sent to prison for bribery, including the chief judge of the traffic court, who in a taped interview said, "Mr. Skolnick, you are imagining things. There is no corruption in this courthouse." The Federal Reserve wire transfer data, which also corroborated by matters already in our possession, among other things, confirms the following. 1. That George Herbert Walker Bush, starting back at the time he was vice president and continuing long thereafter, reportedly corruptly benefited from billions and billions of dollars transferred at the behest of others. Alan Greenspan to private corporations worldwide, in which the elder Bush apparently has a beneficial interest and or is a major stock or bondholder and or is a kingpin therein in other capacities. Included are enterprises in Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Hong Kong, Denmark, England, Red China, Taiwan, Japan, and Germany, among others. Some of the purported secret wire transfers of massive amounts were jointly for the elder Bush and his brother Prescott, a financial broker in New England. And according to published accounts, Prescott Bush arranged vast unsavory deals with the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza, as well as dictator types in Red China, including reportedly with the top officials of the Red Chinese Secret Police, who also operate greatly in North America. Number 2, holding as well a large beneficial interest in or as major stock or bondholder in those accounts has been Jackson Stevens, the Little Rock-based bond broker. Largest such operation outside of Wall Street, Stevens, tied reportedly to the ethnic Chinese gangsters like the Riotti family, interwoven with Clinton and Ollie North and the dope traffic, has been a major backer of Sludge Willie. In the kill box it says, H. I believe for the ones who are not regular readers, this is probably Slick Willie, a common nickname for Bill Clinton. The nefarious worldwide reputed corrupt deals of the Stevens family have been covered up by Alan Redspan and what some call the highly secretive conspiratorial Federal Reserve. Number 3. Some of the firms and enterprises to which the massive wire transfer assets were sent are reportedly CIA proprietary operations set up by Bush as the head and former head of America's secret political police. Now, a Chicago-based bankruptcy expert, William A. Brandt Jr., has been a worldwide expert in quietly terminating CIA proprieties once their espionage function is completed, as shown by documents released under the Freedom of Information Act by the U.S. Justice Department. Brandt's activities overlap those of the elder Bush. Number 4. Some of the billions and billions of dollars of reputed wire transfers went for the beneficial interest of the elder Bush and his son Neil, an official of a CIA proprietary disguised as Denver-based Silverado Savings and Loan Association. The S&L went under, and Neil Bush should have been sent to prison for causing the downfall by reportedly misusing large amounts of federally insured thrift agency funds. On the other hand, as accused in stories in the press in Spain, the elder Bush and his sons George W. Bush, Texas governor, and Jeb Bush, Florida governor, and Jeb's wife, a native of Colombia, are reportedly incriminated through huge money laundering of dope proceeds through banks owned by criminals in Spain. Dope proceeds reportedly from Colombia, Morocco, Portugal, and Italy. We publicized the quiet arrest in Chicago in January 2000 of the reputed Bush family cocaine bank money laundering wizard Giorgio Pelosi, a prominent Swiss accountant. Visit our website, skolnicksreport.com, for details. So the elder Bush has been with CIA since at least 1959, when he helped set up Zapata Petroleum Company, later called Zapata Offshore, with upwards of 600 branches worldwide in international hotspots for the reported purpose of gathering intelligence for the spy agents. Some news sources have contended that Zapata's offshore drilling rigs located beyond the U.S. jurisdiction limit are reported centers for transferring large quantities of illicit drugs and other contraband. Number 5. Some of the reportedly huge secret wire transfers were for or with the elder Bush jointly with the Queen of England through her accounts in the British monarchy's Coutts Bank, London. The secret account numbers are contained in some of the more than 300 apparently authentic Federal Reserve wire transfer records. The British monarchy has long been accused as being worldwide kingpins in the narcotics traffic going back 150 years, starting with the Opium Wars in China. Number 6. Others of the more than 300 documents relate to a situation started in the 1970s when the elder Bush arranged to overthrow the Iraqi government by political assassination, and Bush helped install Saddam Hussein. Others of those and other documents relate to the decade 1980 to 1990, when the elder Bush was a secret private business partner of Saddam Hussein in extorting billions of dollars per year from the weak sheikdoms in the Persian Gulf oil industry kickbacks to supposedly assure security. It was the most horrendous murder of surrendering troops in world history. The German massacre of some 80 U.S. troops surrendering in World War II during the Battle of the Bulge was a small matter by comparison. Our public access cable TV program in 1991 was about the only TV show in America that dared discuss this matter. And following the Persian Gulf War, some 15,000 U.S. troops died from the mysterious malady called Gulf War Syndrome. which the Pentagon denies is happening. Ex-GIs continue to die from the strange ailments, and the total deaths and debilitating diseases amount to more than 20% as casualties of all the Americans serving in the military in the Persian Gulf in 1990 through 91. More than 100,000 American soldiers as casualties. Having been apparently massively bribed and aided in corrupt deeds over a period of years, the elder Bush owed Alan Greenspan and others important favors. Bush has been a potentate in one form or another with Canadian Barrick Gold. The Bank of England, jointly with the Queen of England, who reportedly shared accounts with the elder Bush at Coutts Bank, London, and 3 or more major financial entities orchestrated a vicious attack on gold in 1999. And together, they drove down the price of gold to about $252 per ounce, more than $30 per ounce below the cost of production of the most efficient gold mines, such as in Canada. Reportedly helping this unlawful attack on gold mines and gold mine workers forbidden by U.S. antitrust laws have been the following, among others. A. Goldman Sachs, one of the world's largest bond and gold trading houses. Cynics, knowing these facts, called them Goldman Sucks. And Goldman Sachs has been so much in short-selling deals of gold that in the October 1999 gold crisis, they were reportedly considering invoking the contract provision called force majeure, used to avoid complying with a contract because of wars, hurricanes, revolutions, and such. The Federal Reserve has, through various dirty tricks, bailed out Goldman Sachs repeatedly. B. The Bank of America, big in foreign exchange trading, called Forex, long ago called Bank of Italy in America. They were reportedly part of the knock down the price of gold group. C. Bank of England, jointly with the Queen of England, offering for auction or sale gold that neither one apparently really owns, but is actually a huge gold hoard stolen upon the downfall of the Soviet regime and whisked away to Dutch custody at a Swiss airport for speedy transport wheresoever requested. The Bank of America is owned jointly by the Vatican, the Jesuits, and the Rothschilds. And joining them in recent years as major owners have reportedly been the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza, big in the U.S. dope traffic and owning most every bank in California. Now, the purpose of the gold attack was to drive down the price of gold, among other things, to help bail out 6 hedge funds that have been more than $1 trillion underwater in derivatives gambling, that is, asset swaps. Bankrupt hedge funds, when gold is low price, can obtain gold loans for as little as 1% interest. Were the hedge fund's disaster scenario to be more public, it might set off a meltdown of the financial system of the Western world. Now, reportedly, at the behest of Bush, Barrick became part of a complicated trick of forward leasing of gold, a sort of short selling of gold. Thus, sold short has been more than 10,000 tons of gold, more than 4 years of total world gold production. Gold has been called by some the killer yellow metal for the type of situations it can cause. In February 2000, Barrick, Bush, and the anti-gold gang reportedly again sought to stop the precious metal from going up to a more fair market price, such as $600 per ounce. The disclosures of the reputed several secret Federal Reserve wire transfer records could torpedo the pirate ship of which Alan Greenspan is a treasonous captain, joined by reputed super crook the elder Bush and his family and others in their gang. Altogether, they are part of the big gold swindle of the new century. You can check the website to view a few samples of the more than 300 apparently authentic Federal Reserve secret wire transfer records that tend to incriminate Bush, Greenspan, the Queen of England, the Bank of England, and others. That's the end of quote. Well, there is good news and there is bad news. The good news is that this totally validates the Peruvian gold certificate, and more specifically, the contract recognized as 3392181 to you who just can't seem to believe it. And the half bad news is that whatever you wish to think about it as you look over the possibilities, unfortunately, through the early stages of getting this all nicely validated and working, it was totally legal and lawful in every aspect, so that to catch Mr. Bush in some kind of crime is going to be very, very difficult. The news of interest for you who are inquiring and struggling through this maze of confusion: the funds themselves from that particular document were George Bush's much spoken of early on Superfund. Now, why do you suppose there is such an entanglement with gold? Well, the certificate in Treasury debt is payable in gold. So, if you own the gold mines, and all the gold laying around anywhere is going to become yours. Wow! Any assignments or cash outs would have to be in gold if demanded, and that would be globally, wherever dollars are in any way used. So to control the certificate, later the contract, was the point in play. If Bush had legal title to that document, he was totally clear to use it any way he chose because, my dear friends and readers, it is real and it is valid. All Bush did was overplayed his hand and tried to outsmart the one who held legal, lawful ownership of the certificate itself. When the corporation was stolen by the Bush bunch, right out of Nevada through the Secretary of State, the clues came to the surface. So Mr. Russell Herman had the document declared no longer viable and had it reconfirmed as a legal contract with ownership. The certificate itself was a bearer paper. Mr. Greenspan, you will find, will come out like roses in summer, for he would never have had to touch anything except valid legal documents in order to transfer funds. Just like right now. Only right now he could save the assets of the world in one swish. But would he live to tell about it? Of course, for this is U.S. Treasury authenticated debt based solely on gold, as established prior to the Federal Reserve Act, wherein the Fed assumed lawful liability for the debt itself. Russell Herman gave the world far more than his life, but wouldn't it be nice if you repaid him for that horrendous price by honoring his passion for giving back that which was stolen from you, the people? There are many players involved, and you will find many who were basically taken out of the picture by these thugs of the Bush Brigade. But they too now have opportunity to recover and move right on with the original plan long in place. Brigade and the little twigs could make a major contribution to this old world's recovery and to their own physical longevity. I would guess by major attitude adjustments. And that is up to them, and how forgiving and loving the world judges them to be. You will find every shrewd manipulations have taken place so that legal is the name of the game and unlawful or immoral has nothing to do with it. Note, for instance, the very reference to Zapata oil, and being that those rigs are out of the legal limits of offshore boundaries. You can't really do anything about that drug trade now, can you? Well, how about the Tyson frozen chicken carriers for drugs? And now the whole network of possibly Yahoo? Which is a major electronic network, apparently owned by Zapata Oil. That should be easy enough to check out for you inquiring minds. As for the Tyson, Arkansas operation, my dear ones, Shabu cocaine doesn't smell when in frozen chickens. And if the chickens thaw untimely, the stench is more than enough to mask such a smell from sniffers. I don't want to get into this topic, for the subject is so large and includes so many very important world heads as to be staggering. Therefore, just know that in this particular focus of what Superfund, those are legal, valid documents. Now, what Bush and Buddies did is for the courts to evaluate, not me. We hold Russell Herman's asset in total security, and yes, indeed, so too does Grandma, RK in parentheses, in the kill box. We suppose it comes down to who controls the corporation to which the value was assigned. Cosmos Seafood Energy Marketing Limited. And those of you who don't know who that might be, good for her. I would like to leave this right here, please, Dharma. May you receive grace to appropriately move forward in this, your opportunity to change a world. Your world. Love, Dad. Dharma.